Hello everyone, Storm11 here. Today we'll be having an early look to February and also the spring of 2022 as well. We'll be checking some models and even the cloud predictions, there's thoughts as well. Before we get started with this video, if you guys do like whatever related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel as well. Plus, we'll be having a couple more updates on this as well in the future, so definitely stay tuned for some more updates as well. But we're going to get started with the sea surface temperature anomalies map to see what's been going on out there. And you can see here a couple noticeable things. Of course, we got our La Nina still continuing in the ENSO. And it seems like it's been getting a little bit stronger, just a tad bit. I'll show you guys the 7-day temperature change in a moment. Another thing to note is that the negative PDO has weakened over time as well. It's been moderating over time, slowly over the last couple weeks. But then again, it's been weakening, which will be good news for snow lovers in the eastern U.S. out there. One thing I do know is that the Gulf of Mexico is still pretty warm down there as well, but it is starting to cool off. This is the temperature change over the last 7 days. Then again, PDO been it's a little slightly milder. But if you look in the ENSO, there are it's been cooling down a little bit in parts of the ENSO, especially on the eastern part of the ENSO. It's sort of been cooling down as well. So the La Nina might be gaining a little bit of strength as well, which is what I found pretty interesting. Currently, we're actually at the peak of the La Nina as well. That's something else to note as well, is that we're actually at the peak as well. Gulf of Mexico is actually cooling down as well. Still a little bit milder, but it has been cooling down. And I think that cooling is going to continue over the next week or two as this cold and snowy pattern does continue in the eastern U.S. But eventually, at some point, we have to have a pattern change. It's not going to go on forever. So let's actually check out some model guidance. So we're going to first check out February with the CFS model. This is your temperature anomalies, and you do see here a pretty good pattern for a cold to snowy pattern, especially for parts of the Northeast, parts of the Ohio Valley, Midwest, even up in the parts of Great Lakes region as well. But you also do notice in the Southeast, there is some moderation down there. So it has been getting warmer down there. It's also a tad bit warmer around the four corner states as well. But this is also a pretty good pattern for some severe weather potential across Dixie Alley with these above normal temperatures down here across the deep south as well. This is a look into 500 millibar GL potential height anomalies, and you'll notice one of the bigger things on this map here is this big ridge that's forecasting over parts of the North Pacific. So that'd be very interesting. That kind of leads to a pretty good ridge out here. Does Since it's still a little further to west, doesn't really include the western U.S. all that much, but probably at least along the coastline it probably does. But most of western U.S. may get lucky because this trough here is actually nearby as well, which will be a little bit further west, probably for the month of February, especially when you get a southeast ridge that develops. If that's the case, it's going to push this colder air a little bit further to the northwest. Plus, there's not much in the way of a negative NAO place. It's actually a little bit more of a positive NAO up there as well. So that decreases chances of a cold and snowy time period for each U.S. Now, I do believe that we are going to still continue this cold snowy pattern for at least the first maybe week of February, but I think eventually when we get into mid to late February, I think that's when we're going to start to warm up as well. This is your MSLP anomalies, and kind of not showing a whole lot of anything for the U.S. It's not very consistent. Doesn't have really much of a signal out there, but it does have a big signal over parts of the northeastern Pacific as well. That's an indication there is going to be plenty of ridging out there as well. That's also going to help try to kill off that negative PDO as well, because it does lead to slightly milder temperatures up there as well. So that is one thing as well. So we do have to monitor that negative PDO closely, because if it's still going to be around, that's not going to be good news for spring. We'll talk about that in a little bit. This is the Kansas Mall. Now, I will say it has been too warm for the month of January so far. And then again, like I said, the cold snowy pattern is likely to continue through the rest of the month in January. But then again, it's been too warm for the eastern U.S. It's actually been below normal for pretty much for most of January. I think the only time it's been below normal, or above normal, I should say, is probably the first day or two of January. So, yeah, on that. Otherwise, it did get at least the northern plains correct. That's where the core of the cold has been in the United States. It's actually been up in those areas. So what does it have for the month of February? Well, kind of similar to the CFS, but too very warm. This might be a little bit too warm, in my opinion. Now, what makes a big difference here is when we look into the geopotential height anomalies, is that your ridge is actually further to the west. So if that's going to be the case here, if that ridge is going to be further west, that's going to help amplify the southeast ridge. It's going to take better control of the eastern U.S. So that is something to keep an eye on, is where's the placement of this ridge is going to be. It could be on the northeastern part of the Pacific, or it could be a little bit further to the west. So that's still a big question that we need to answer there, because that can really change up the pattern a little bit. Also, that can lead to how big some of these severe weather events could be, because if the Kansas ball is correct, this will be a very favorable pattern for severe weather. Something I hate to say there as well. Here's your MSLP anomalies. Kind of similar here to the CFS, with that big indication there in the parts of the northern Pacific. But you also do notice they're along the east coast, though it does indicate some bridging out there as well. Plus, there is some below normal MSLP anomalies out here as well. So that's where some of your lows could be traveling through as well. Plus, there's also below normal anomalies up in Greenland as well. So that's going to lead to a positive NAO up there as well. Here's precipitation anomalies, and you can see here it's got the bullseye in the parts of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio vicinity. That's where it might be saying that's where we could see some active severe weather. Now, one model, one solution, keep in mind of that. But then again, if the Kansas model is correct, this is an area we may have to watch for severe weather, which I know these are some of the same areas that get hit hard back in December, but there might be a possibility we may go back towards a similar pattern to what we just saw in December. Doesn't mean that we're going to see a repeat, just saying that we could see some similarities, especially when we get to mid to late February as well. It also does have above normal precipitation anomalies from the northwest as well. So definitely has some similarities here. And I forgot to show the precipitation anomalies on the CFS, and you'll notice here without Rich that's further east, that's going to bring those above normal precipitation anomalies a little further to the south as well, but it still has that very similar signal as well. Okay, so this is the NMME. So this is basically one model that is pretty much ensembles of the other long-range models. I believe this includes the Kansas model and the CFS, and a lot of other long-range models as well. Puts into one graphic. And you can see here the ensemble mean here is pretty impressive. I gotta say, this is a pretty strong agreement here for almost about everything that's going on out here. Higher percentages, the higher the confidence is, pretty much. So, La Nina seems like it's a good bet through February. Above normal anomalies in the Gulf of Mexico, that's not a good thing. It also actually has it getting stronger, with that negative PDO getting stronger in the parts of the northeastern Pacific. That's also not a good thing. These three things can lead to big severe weather outbreaks. This is a very similar pattern to, then again, what we saw back in December. So this is definitely something we got to keep an eye on, definitely for sure. This is its temperature anomalies here. You can see here has some pretty good probabilities across parts of the south, Lower probabilities is when you get around the Great Lakes. That's probably where we do have a little bit of uncertainty. Then again, it really depends on where that ridge is going to set up. But it does look like that really wants to keep that negative PDO in place, which is pretty interesting. Strong enough that it does bring below average temperatures across the northwest as well. And here's some precipitation anomalies for February, and it's similar to the Kansas model in the CFS. Around parts of Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, even into parts of southern Illinois and southeastern Missouri. Around that area, definitely something you need to watch for the potential for some severe weather setups. And it's also got above normal anomalies up across the northwest as well. It's also looking pretty dry across the central and southern plains into the desert southwest as well. Even includes some of the Gulf Coast states up into parts of the Carolinas as well. Maybe looking to be a little bit drier as well. And here's the all pretty much all of the models here when it comes to temperatures, and you can see here what the mean here for the MME. That's a pretty strong indication there. I mean, that's 2 to 3 degrees, and I believe that's Celsius here, 2 to 3 degrees above a normal temperatures there. That's quite a big concern there. It really is. And below normal temperatures across Alaska, a good chunk of really the western half of Canada, the northwest as well. This is a very favorable pattern for severe weather again. Now, where we could see some of that better snowfall potential will probably be somewhere in the Midwest. It'll be an area I will monitor there. But another area that could get quite a bit of snow will probably be the Northwest as well. Like I said before, definitely a pretty similar pattern to what we just experienced back in December. And here's the other models here and its thoughts, and definitely some similarities out there as well. And even some models are also pretty warm as well. Definitely has some similarities to the Kansas model as well. So that's pretty much February out of the way. So overall, for February, it's definitely looking like that it could be a favorable pattern for some severe weather. Now, I do think at least the first week of February, it's going to be continuing with that cold and snowy pattern. But when you get to week 2 and 3, I think that's when we really get to see this pattern here take shape as well. So we definitely need to watch mid to late February. But then again, it may change. We're still about 10 days. Yeah, we're 10 days away from our monthly forecast on this as well. It's when I'll release, and there could be some changes within that 10-day period. So definitely something we need to keep an eye on as well. So I want to backtrack here to the CFS model. We're going to check out the month or the season of spring. So March, April, and May. And this is precipitation anomalies, and you can see here, definitely not a good look for the Ohio Valley. It definitely is not. Um, you can see there above average precipitation, especially across parts of some of the same areas: Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, parts of Tennessee, southeastern Missouri, and northeastern Arkansas as well. Even some above normal precipitation anomalies across the northwest. Looking a little bit dry across the four quarter states, parts of Nevada, California, and the Gulf Coast states as well. Also looking to be a little bit drier as well. So and if we check out MSLP anomalies here, you do notice here it doesn't really show much away lows out there. I think it's going to be quite an active pattern here. But you've got a ridge of high pressure up here, so it does lead to blocking. You also got some blocking out here as well. We got a ridge just off the east coast. That's going to make the Gulf of Mexico wide open for moisture to get in these areas in here. So it's not necessarily a good thing. Plus, when you got a ridge out here, it's going to bring in colder air down here in these areas in here as well. And you can get lows that could track something like this. With a low track like this, you could get severe weather in here, and that will match up pretty darn well with the precipitation anomalies of what we're just looking at. So definitely pretty concerning pattern here for the spring season. And this is the 3-month average here for 500 millibar geopotential high anomalies, and it fits in pretty well as well. Troughing across the northern parts of the northern plains in the northwest, ridging across the south and east. So pretty favorable pattern there. And here's the temperature anomalies here, and it also fits in pretty well as well. And then again, if CFS is correct, be ready for the potential for above normal severe weather season, which we haven't really experienced that in a little bit. Now, last year, for the month of March, was very active, but when we get into April and May, it wasn't very active at all. Might be a little bit different this year, and I'm saying maybe. We're still a little ways away from spring, which the final spring forecast will come out uh, on the last day of February. So at least when I plan to anyway, but it will really depend on how severe weather or weather in general will happen during that time frame. So here's the CANSIPS model, and you can see here it's a little bit more amplified with that southeast ridge out there. Still a variable setup either way. That was the wrong one. So precipitation anomalies, very similar to the CFS model. MSLP anomalies, also pretty similar as well. It's actually got some ridging over the northeast as well. So then again, that's a pretty good agreement thus far out. That's actually pretty impressive as well. It's also pretty concerning at the same time when you got such a good agreement for the potential for more severe weather setups as well. It's certainly very interesting. So this is what the MME's thoughts on this for the spring season, and pretty similar to February, unfortunately. Still got the La Nina around, you still got the negative PDO, and you still got those above normal sea surface temperatures. That's definitely not a good thing at all if you do not want severe weather, especially in the parts of the eastern U.S. This is its temperatures there. These are probabilities, and it's got pretty high probabilities across the south, below normal probabilities across the northwest as well. And then again, some absurdities when you get around the Great Lakes, it's not a very high probability up there. And here's precipitation anomalies. Then again, still bullseyes, parts of Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and parts of Illinois as well. Still really likes that area pretty well up there as well. And this is the individual models here for temperature anomalies. And you can see here what the ensemble mean. Above normal temperatures in the red and the orange colors, below normal temperatures in the northwest. And then again, pretty good agreement for this far out. And it could change. Keep in mind that. It could change over time. There's still plenty of time before we get into spring as well. That's something to note there as well. Okay, let's talk the ENSO in a little bit more detail here. So, this is its probabilities here from the climate prediction center, and really the bar you want to focus on is right here. This is for spring, MAM, or March, April, and May. They actually got a pretty good probability, 60 to 70%. Now, if I'm correct, we can actually look up here for previous years. For the year of 2020, the La Nina wasn't, well, actually, the La Nina was actually around for 2021. 0.7 degrees below normal, so we actually had a La Nina during that time frame as well. But you also got to take into account of other teleconnections. One, you may got the ENSO favorable for severe weather, but the PDO wasn't very favorable. We actually had a positive PDO instead of negative PDO. This year, we got models that are suggesting a negative PDO, which is going to help keep that colder air further to the northwest. However, if we keep this pattern to continue, that's going to help it warm up a little bit. So that could change up the forecast a little bit. So That's why it's too early to make a forecast, but it's also not too early to make some observations of what the models are suggesting on this. That's something to keep in mind as well. And here's another year. Here's 2018. That's one. You had 2012. 2011 is also involved as well. And all these definitely have some similarities as well. Here's some of the model guidance here for the ENSO, and you can see here, even these guys here do have, it's actually pretty close here, kind of along that border, so it's kind of looking to be a weak La Nina indicated by those models. And similar way with the CFS V2 as well. It's also going to keep it kind of on the weak La Nina side as well. But even for a weak La Nina, it can still lead to bigger severe weather events. Then again, when you look back up here, 2011, 2012, those were also weak La Nina years or seasons as well. So even for a weak La Nina, it can lead to some severe weather events. 2018, again, similar way. But 2021, also, I'd probably say that was a little bit of an outlier because of that PDO. And this year, we do have the negative PDO in place. So that's going to be one of those key factors. Someone did post this on Twitter. We've seen this before last year. It did not really work very well because of that positive PDO that was in place. But since we got a negative PDO in the forecast, this might be a little bit more useful. So these are your top 5 analogs for our ENSO. And this is just the ENSO only. Keep in mind that. This is only for the ENSO. So you got 1974, 2011, 1976, 2018, and 1971. Now, I'm not 100% sure of what happened in 1976 and 1971, but I think we all do know pretty well what happened in 1974, 2011, and the most recent one, 2018. Now, in 2018, here in Kentucky, we did experience pretty active severe weather during the spring season, and 2011 and 1974 were also very active springs as well. And then again, I'm not 100% sure about 1976 and 1971, but I do know the other three as well. And those were active years or seasons as well. So this is definitely something we need to keep an eye on very closely here because there's definitely some analog support and model support that this could be, and I'm saying could be because things could change. This could be an active season. This is the climate prediction thoughts here. We'll actually get started with February, and this is a pretty favorable pattern. Above, they got pretty good probabilities along the east for the eastern U.S., even back into parts of the Four Corner states. Equal chances right around the Midwest. I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs in those areas. With below average probabilities across the Northwest. And again, pretty favorable pattern there for severe weather. And precipitation fits in pretty well. Above normal anomalies across the Great Lakes, parts of the Ohio Valley, down along parts of the Mississippi River Valley as well. And then you do have below average anomalies across parts of the Four Corner states, the desert Southwest, over Texas, down along the southern, some of the Gulf Coast states, and across parts of the Carolinas as well. And also, I would have to agree, at least with what it's been looking like for now. And this is for spring, and you do see here, things do get a little bit milder in the eastern U.S. And the cold air does back off a little bit as well. Then again, we're still a little bit long ways away from spring, so some things can change. And here's this precipitation anomalies. It's actually some that got the above normal anomalies a little bit further west than some of the models do suggest. We'll see if they move it to the east in the next update, which will probably it'll be about around a month from now. This was made just yesterday, so this is a fresh update from the Climate Prediction Center, and they only update these once a month. So either way, here there's a. We'll just say this for now that there is a signal from the model guidance analogs that we could see an active spring severe weather season. Then again, it's not 100% guaranteed because we're in mid to late January, and spring is still over a month away. So there's still plenty of time for changes. So that's just something to note as well. And those sea surface temperatures, which I'm going to be monitoring this negative PDO very closely here. Because if it does continue to say negative PDO, that's not going to be good news. But if it does change to a positive PDO, because the current pattern we've been seeing has been warming it up. It has been, especially with that positive PNA taking shape as well. But with that indication between as we get into mid to late February, the PNA starts to flip, and it also can make this negative PDO kind of cool down and get stronger as well. So we got to watch those trends very closely there. I have pretty decent confidence with the ENSO and what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico here, but I think the main area we really need to keep an eye on is what's going on up here as well. Of course, some of the other teleconditions are important, like the NAO and the AO is also important as well. But I think one of the bigger factors is going to be this PDO that's situated up here as well. So it's definitely something to watch here. So, and very interesting and potentially active spring could be on the way for us this year. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you do like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications and never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put the comment section down below. Or answer guys questions. And I see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.